Steven Greer is not only a UFO expert, he is also at the same time retarded. I'm going to show you here in a Joe Rogan podcast, and from the early days, Steven Greer was talking to Joe Rogan, and let's just dissect Steven Greer's fanciful stories.
The senior people in our government have, for the most part, no access to. Now, I would not have believed that if I hadn't been the guy who was brought to Washington during the Clinton years to do the briefing for the CIA director.
So, straight off the bat, the CIA decided to call Steven Greer for some unknown reason into the White House to talk about UFOs. No, actually, there is a reason why they called him in, but that'll be revealed later on, and it's hilarious.
Director, R. James Woolsey, and his wife was there, who was at the time the chief operating officer of the National Academy of Sciences. And when I was first invited to go up there and brief the CIA director, I was told, they want you to come up here because President Clinton and he have inquired about this subject and are being denied access. Now, I have a letter proving this.
President Clinton has been denied access, so they
Right.
want you, a doctor,
who had a family connection to these programs and also to information.
Even Joe Rogan has no idea what the fuck is going on. He's like, but you're a doctor. And what, Clinton and the head of the CIA called you in? And Stephen Greer's excuse is that he's got family connections, which I have no idea what that means. And because that's why they called him in.
They can't find out anything, but they know stuff's going on. Well, I thought they just wanted to pick my brain as sort of spooks. You know how spooks as spies will try to just get information.
Because guys, you know how just spooks, you know how just, it happens all the times. You know how spooks just pick your brains sort of just for information.
3-hour briefing that I did for the CIA director. My wife was with me.
It's just the White House and a secret CIA meeting about UFOs, but they let him bring his wife with him.
My hands were shaking because I'm like this 35-year-old guy briefing the sitting CIA director. It was very intimidating, frankly. And, at the end of it, I said, we really need you to help disclose this information because the people need to know, but also the technologies that we've studied and have mastered for 50 years could get us off oil. We could fix this environment. We could fix the world's poverty problems.
So hang on, what do they want him to do, the CIA? They want him to help disclose the information. They want him to disclose that there are UFOs to the public. Why? Why would they want him to do that? That makes zero sense whatsoever. And they need him to do that because then they can use the technology to have free power and save the planet. So basically, Steven Greer is the linchpin to saving humankind in this conversation with the CIA in the White House.
Because you're the CIA director, just because you're Secretary of Defense or on the Senate Intelligence Committee means nothing. And even the president. So the reason those folks invited me to come up there is that the year before, I had taken a team of people out on a beach.
This is literally the funniest part of the interview and one of the funniest things I've heard anyone ever say. This is the reason why the CIA chose him to come to the White House for Bill Clinton to disclose that there's aliens in UFOs. And anyone, because he's got a following, this guy, all these people that follow him, I don't understand hearing even just this part, how you would believe, just watch how casually. And mind you, what he's going to do is just going to be with some radios and antennas and stuff.
The occupants. And 4 of these UFOs popped into the sky, just boom, 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 which we have on videotape. Not great videotape because we didn't have good cameras back then. And there were a couple Air Force officers and pilots there. And this went up through the chain of command.
So he went out to a beach with a team of people, including Air Force people or something, and all of a sudden he was able to make 4 UFOs appear. Boom, 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 boom. And then that went up the chain of command. And watch this next bit. Joe Rogan is blown away at the stupidity and tries to make him explain how did you contact you? Because, Greer just casually, I just went to the beach with some Air Force people. Doesn't explain why. Just went there and we made 4 UFOs appear just at will. But he doesn't explain why, how. So Joe Rogan's not going to let him go with this one.
A few months later, the former head of Army Intelligence invites me to a meeting, and then some National Security Agency people do, and one thing leads to another, and I'm being invited to brief the sitting CIA director. So that,
how did you contacted these spaceships?
Well, this gets into a discussion, that's complex, but yes, and
you can do that at any time.
Well, not at any time, but I think that under the right,
you can do that.
There are protocols, and we developed something called the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind Initiative, which is when you use a set of they're very controversial protocols that deal with non-locality, the fact that the universe has various dimensions that you can move through to go from one star system to another. But those dimensions that are at higher resonant fields than, say, linear space-time or electromagnetism also...
Holy shit! So he's Joe Rogan asked him how did you get you just spoke to some UFOs just like that? How did you do that? And he's rambling on with locality and thought and all the it's just absolute. It's hilarious. It's garbage. It's just total garbage. Anyone that believes this is retarded. I could watch this over and over. It's classic. Look at him. He's just splurging out about thought experiments and locality and all this sort of thing, trying to throw out some scientific terms. He's smarter than Einstein and all the scientists put together because, he's just casually gone to the beach with some Air Force pilots and just made UFOs appear from another dimension and he can speak to them. How? Who knows how? He's smarter than Einstein. He doesn't have to explain how. He can just get UFOs to appear, but not all the time. Of course not, because that'd be because if you know why he said not all the time, because if Joe Rogan said to him, make some pop here now, he'd go, oh, I can't do it all the time, just when it's convenient. What an absolute clown. What a clown show. What a fool. What a grifter. What a retard.
Also interface with what I call coherent thought. So the Moody Blues were right when they said thinking is the best way to travel. And there's a component to where, I'm probably going to lose half your listeners right now.
No, you won't. I've got freaks listening.
All right, well, okay,
right
all you freaks, listen up and listen up hard. You can develop technologies, and we have these in classified projects now, where you can have what's called a switch that will interface with very intent thought.
What a clown! Like seriously, we have so he's saying that we have this technology to interface with aliens and it's classified, but he knows because he's got access to this classified information because once he made UFOs pop up on the beach and the CIA are his best friends, and so it's a switch and you just switch it and you can interface with aliens. Joe Rogan, I can't believe Joe Rogan didn't headbutt him at this stage and kick him out. What's going on here?
So it's beyond, forget your iPhone. Now, if you're traveling from one star system to another, that's what you're going to be using. You're going to be using technologies that are phasing at multiples of the speed of light.
So now he's ramping up. He's just going full retard now, talking about, when you go travel between star systems at the speed of light and this is what you're going to use, this switch that they've developed, but it's top secret and you interface with aliens and thought. He's ramping it up now. He's going full-blown retard.
And those dimensions also intersect at a certain point with coherent thought, just like light is coherent, a laser is coherent light. And so this gets into the whole question of how over the history of humanity have there been so many reports of contact, and there are. I mean, going all the way back to the Vimanas and the Vedas to accounts that, there's a wonderful painting and the Middle Ages of this exactly, it looks like a modern UFO over the shoulder of Mary holding Jesus in a picture it's from the 1400s.
Yeah, he's starting to lose me now. Now he's talking about like how people see UFOs in ancient photos in the background, like Jesus and Mary over Mary's shoulder, because she must have these radio waves, and she must have invented this switch, which is top secret, so she could interface with the aliens.
I've actually seen the original of this. So I think the question becomes, we probably have always had extraterrestrial civilizations observing our little planet. The question is, what happened in the last 50 to 100 years that really got their attention? And I'm quite convinced it was when we started detonating thermonuclear weapons. But one of the projects we're involved with is Disclosure Project. Another one is sort of a citizens diplomacy effort saying, look, since our government is dead in the water on this in terms of the Secretary of State and folks like that, and I know I went up to the UN and met with, back when Boutros Ghali was UN Secretary General, and briefed these guys. And
he's actually getting boring now. So now he just casually throws in. He's just went and spoke to the head of the UN just to give them information about UFOs.
So I started a citizens diplomacy effort back in 1990. But this is actually, and this is the part that I get ridiculed the most for, but it's the reason why the intelligence community took it most seriously, is that they knew that we had discovered the Rosetta Stone of contact, and they were very concerned. Now, concerned from the covert end. From the end of a lot of these Washington operatives, they were just fascinated. They didn't understand it.
So now we've got people in Washington, intelligence people. There's a group that are concerned because Greer invented the Rosetta Stone of speaking to aliens, and there's other ones that have no idea what's going on because it's beyond them. Because Steven Greer is smarter than Einstein.
It was sort of past their scientific understanding, but they were very interested.
This is something I hate to interrupt you. But
no, please.
This is something that we can't really just gloss over. The idea that coherent thought, as you say, intersects with these other levels, these other dimensions that we can't normally access.
Correct.
How did you find out about this, and how did you develop the ability
Well, you're
to
putting me in the hot seat early, man.
Yeah, you were in the hot seat, buddy. Joe Rogan's just like stoned off his head all this time, but he's just finally processed what's going on. He has no idea what's going on, and he's basically saying to Stephen, what the fuck are you talking about? He's putting him on the spot. And what the fuck? How did you call aliens and talk to aliens and no one else has been able to do it, and you're talking to the UN, CIA, White House, Bill Clinton? Explain to me. Let's rewind a little bit. Slow down, rewind, tell me what the hell is going on.
You have to. When you say that you can do that, I mean, somehow or another you have to, without getting anybody killed, you have to explain. How'd you figure that out?
I figured it out when I was a teenager, and through a series of experiences I had, and I was talking to Thomas Jane, who's an actor here in town, about this, and I had a near-death experience when I was 17. I was very sick.
Steven Greer is the what's that movie with Tom Hanks, and the dude does everything and sees everyone? He's the Forrest Gump of UFOs, man. He's done everything now. Look, this is just left field. He's had a near-death experience. So he's talked to some angels or something. This is wild, dudes. Also notice how he has he spurts out little sentences that have nothing to do with the story. Like just before he said this, he said, "Oh yeah," and I was talking to blah blah blah, who's an actor in the area. The reason he does this is because it gives him time to think of the next bullshit. He needs a bit of time to spin his bullshit story. So he babbles about things that make nothing to do with the story, like that with the actor.
And I had an experience that took me into some awareness about the nature of consciousness and the non-locality of mind, and the fact that the mind is actually a singularity, that there's really only one mind, and it's just shining through various individuals, appearing as many. And this experience, although it sounds very spiritual and religious, was very palpable. And I was raised a very devout atheist, so we didn't believe in anything. And so when I realized that this was real, I began to study meditation. And through that, began to have some experiences where I realized this could happen. And I had a contact experience. I was 18, it was a few months later, in the fall of 1973. And I was doing this. I was meditating, and then I was doing what's now called SRV, scientific remote viewing, where you use consciousness to see remote places. And of course, Army intelligence and the CIA have experimented with this for years.
This guy is insane. He's like Munchausen. Was it Baron von Munchausen? Like, he just spins so many. So now, what's he saying? He's saying he experimented when he was 18. He did this. He used his mind to look at other areas in the universe, just like casually, like, 18-year-olds are listening to Nirvana and playing with Rubik's cubes and whatever they do these days. But this guy at 18, he was just like, in his mind, viewing different parts of the universe with his mind. And of course, you know, as always, the CIA and Army intelligence people are experimenting with this at the moment. But yeah.
Which you may or may not know about. We can get into that. But I know all those guys. I know all the SRV people. But I was a kid, and I just turned 18. I was doing this, and suddenly I had this experience where I thought, well, what if I try to go into that state of one mind that I experienced when I was a kid, six months earlier when I had this near-death experience. So I did. And then I had an experience where I remote viewed and saw deep space and could see that there was an ET spacecraft out there. And I
look at Joe Rogan's face while he's telling this story about seeing an ET out in space.
Made contact, and it appeared, and it literally materialized right near the mountain where I was.
And how old were you when you did this?
18.
No drugs.
No drugs.
No, I've never done any drugs. Actually.
You've never done any drugs?
No.
I think Joe Rogan's blown away at this story that it's being said, and it's not a drug trip. That's how ridiculous it is.
No psychedelics, nothing?
Never.
Wow.
No.
Did you see Joe Rogan, how he said, wow, this fucking massive fucking bullshit story, and it's nothing to do with drugs, are you sure? Wow.
No.
Are you aware of dimethyltryptamine? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do.
This is hilarious. Joe Rogan's just like continually talking about drugs now. Like, nothing to do with aliens, but Joe Rogan, he's convinced this guy's on drugs or something. Imagine Steven Greer listening, telling this story, and then Joe Rogan starts drilling him about drugs. And are you sure you weren't on drugs? Wow. Do you know about this type of drug? Have you heard about this type of drug? They're hilarious.
What they found is that, in fact, the mind itself is what Erwin Schrödinger said. And Erwin Schrödinger, of course, was the father of particle wave theory and quantum mechanics. And I think it was in 1910 or so, he said the total number of minds in the universe is one. That is, it's a singularity. And so that understanding is, I know it sounds sort of
batshit crazy.
Out there.
Hippie.
But no, it actually sounds very Vedic in the sense of Buddhist or Vedanta. But
hippie for modern references.
I guess to maybe Sarah Palin. But did I say that? I'm sorry. I apologize. But the reality is the world isn't flat.
If anyone thought the world was flat, I would have put money on it that this clown was one of them.
And there's a whole area of physics and science that has been drilled down on for years that establish all these things as true. It isn't talked about because
it's batshit crazy?
The high priests of religion and the high priests of science are all opposed to this information coming out.
Yeah, right, okay. So the high priests of religion and the high priests of science are opposed to this information getting out. I've lost what information it is at this stage. Is it that we're seeing aliens, we can communicate with them, our thoughts can look at other planets when we're 18 years old. The technology that we're a singularity, there's only one mind, everyone's got the same mind. I've totally lost where we're at why any. I really don't understand what's going on at this stage, is what I'm trying to say.
So
And,
the
and
idea
and
that
so part of the secrecy around this whole UFO issue isn't just the physical energy and propulsion systems; it's the paradigm. Because if you ask the question, in fact, going back to this dinner with the CIA director and his wife, very smart lady, and she turns in. We're sitting across the table having dinner. I mean, that was the cover story. It was a dinner, and she says, "How are they communicating across the vastness of space?" And of course, I had to, I didn't know whether to tell her something that sounded scientific, so I maintained my credibility, or to tell her the truth and risk losing all my credibility. But I decided then, in the early days of this project, that if someone's smart enough to ask the question, I'm going to answer it honestly, even though it's going to blow their mind.
So, whoa, 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 whoa. So, hang on a second. Is he saying that the CIA director's wife at this dinner asked this question? Like, she was the first person to ever ask this question? Like, Steven Greer has been communicating with aliens. The CIA dragged him into the White House. He's having dinner with the CIA, but this is the first time anyone's ever asked him this question. So, that makes no sense at all.
The biggest deal is the light barrier. And when you go past the light barrier, you're going to cross into these kind of multiphasic resonant dimensions.
All right, does everyone understand this? When you pass the speed of light, you're going to go into multi dimensional resonic. What did he say? Something like that. Is this real? Like, is he just making these putting words together? Like, whoever said this? I've never heard this before. If you go past the speed of light, you're going to multi-dimensional resonic dimensions.
Part of which hook into the singularity of mind and thought. And actually, this film that we're working on, which is the largest crowd-funded documentary in history, to my knowledge, Sirius, and you can find out about it at SiriusDisclosure.com. It's been crowdfunded by the public. It's all been funded by people out there, thousands of people.
Okay, that makes sense now. He's got to feel he's grifting off the dumbasses out there on the internet. They're funding his movie. So okay, this all makes sense. This is why he's doing it. He's getting dumbasses on the internet who believe this sort of thing about talking to aliens with a singularity mind, and they're all sharing the same mind. And then he sprinkles in the CIA, UN, all this conspiracy stuff, just to spice it up a little bit. Yeah, I see what's happening.
We're going to do a premiere here in LA on April 22nd if you want to come. But
I would love to.
Okay, come.
But we
But
can't send things at the speed of light, right? I mean, even saying that,
beyond the speed of light.
but they can't do that, right?
Yeah, Joe Rogan's just hitting him with reality now, because no, they cannot do that.
No, but I'm fiber optics and things of this sort.
But does that move at the speed of light?
Pretty much.
Yeah?
But
Okay.
but what I'm saying is that if you go beyond the speed of light,
Right.
it's a whole new physics.
Of course.
Okay. So that's what if these craft are here, and now I have over 4,000 cases where they've landed.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, he's got 4,000 cases where UFOs has landed. He's got just 4,000 pieces of evidence of this.
And we have evidence.
Uh-huh.
I have 3,500 pilot cases. We have over 500 whistleblowers, top secret military corporate people, and I have 110 of them on digital videotape, although nobody really wants to see it. But
Okay, so he's got all this testimonial on digital videotape, but no one wants to see it.
I have it. So the question is, if they're here, how the hell they get here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not using an Exxon Jet A fuel, and they're not using a solid rocket booster, and they're not using an ion drive or anything linear. So you have to begin to have this question. So when the CIA director's wife asked me this, I told her about that they had technologies that interface with thought and consciousness.
This is just too dumb to go on. I can't listen to anymore. Your IQ reduces at a compounding rate the more you listen to this guy talk. But anyway, that's it. I just wanted to show all these people that follow, they follow this guy, Steven Greer, like he's some type of UFO god. But when you listen to him talk, when you don't see little snippets of him and you see him talking to someone, any interview, there's more interviews I've seen of this sort of thing. They're all the same. Like he's like Forrest Gump. He meets all the famous people in the world, because he can talk with his mind to aliens and see other planets, but he doesn't explain how, because it's too difficult to explain, except for when he had a near-death experience that helped him do it. But it's just, he's a clown and he's a massive grifter, and you can see why. I think he writes books, does documentaries with all this sort of stuff. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, this is the guy, who is the biggest, I would say the biggest UFO grifter. Oh, there's that other Aussie guy too. I'll do one on him next time. I can't remember his name. He's another knobhead. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.